sure they
Right.
replace with the right size.
Well, you can still look to see how. Some of those were good. So.
You think they, they had those big machines that come in there.
Yeah.
You think they would have
Pay attention, waking us up.
done that.
I just came from India.
India?
They build the roads around the trees. I'm like, wow, how progressive.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like in the middle of the road, there's a tree.
Who put that there?
Yeah. But these are,
Big,
going on, sir?
big
Yeah.
bad trees. Yeah.
Wow.
Bad
How long
as
were
in
you
good.
there?
Did you see
2 weeks, basically.
all
We
yours?
just got back last night. I'm glad this meeting was moved earlier.
All right, we will get the 4B board meeting for April 16th, 2019 at 6:34 p.m. All members are present except member Anthony and member Van Vessen. We will move to the public forum. If anybody would like to speak, they may do so at this point. No one in the public forum. We will close the public forum, move on to presentation. Number 1, update from Parks Director Burton Barr.
Good evening. I guess I can just give you all an update on some of the things that we've been working on. I guess I've been here a little over 6 months now. I guess I'll talk about, we're in the process of making some irrigation system improvements. Substantial amount of money. There's not a licensed irrigator on staff, so when we have to call out for service calls, things like that, labor rates are probably around $150 an hour. So ways that we can cut into that a little bit is the systems that we're putting in now are it's basically called a smart port. Has a remote control, so when our staff finishes mowing, things like that, they can do an audit of the system. So if anything's broken or out of place, instead of it just running randomly, driving the water bills up at night, nobody's watching. It allows us to fix that, before the system comes back on, as opposed to just calling someone, having them come out, and then they have to go through the audits. They have to go through the audit process themselves at the $150 an hour. I say that it's 2 people, but so the expense that we're spending on upgrading some of those controllers is. Any questions on that?
Was it an app-based thing, or do they just carry a remote around with them? Or?
No, it's basically the port. Most of the systems now, like Hunter, a lot of them come with the port that plug in one into the port, and then it's kind of like you type in how many stations are on the system. Anywhere on this property and basically hold it up and turn a zone on. Instead of just setting 5 minutes per zone and, like hoping you don't have an issue.
Right. Cool.
People are walking in, there's water pouring all over the place. So,
I need one of those for my house. We found out the hard way that our dog had chewed up 12 sprinkler heads last year.
yeah, it's just so much easier.
So do you know how many zones, or how many different areas do we have? sprinklers?
There's six different properties. So, at Jobson, for example, there was one of the controllers had 2 zones on it. So I think today they just finished putting that into 1. So
Neat.
I'm excited once everything's complete, giving these guys the staff, giving them the power to be able to just see, because if you stop and think about having to call a contractor, and the contractor, somebody's gonna have to meet with them, process, and we're just gonna be able to streamline it. If it's something that we can't fix in-house, then obviously we make that call if it's a main line or something like that. But by and large, I think we'll save a significant amount of money doing it ourselves.
Do you have the irrigation maps or plans to know where all the heads and zones are at?
Real quick, we are live streaming tonight, so just make sure you turn on your mics so that you're heard.
Yeah, I've been doing, I started working on it when I first got here, and now that we're getting close to there's some chemical applications and things like that that need to be watered in, but before we can schedule those, we need to make sure. Basically, I meet with the contractor, we audit the system, and as things are popping up, I write everything down, and then I come back and put it in a spreadsheet. So basically creating a zone map for everything and all the different properties. So,
Good.
you know, like I said, if you know, one of the things about the systems that is not in existence, and it's expensive to go back in after the fact, is putting in isolation valves. So, you know, if you're out there in the heat of the summer and there's a zone that's not working properly, instead of being able to irrigate the other 99% of your property, you wind up not irrigating at all because you can't shut the system down. And it's, you know, it's expensive after the fact, just going in and putting a ball valve so that you can turn it off. But it's baby steps towards it, you know, eventually I think we can do it.
Do you keep a lot of like sprinkler parts,
We don't yet because there's such a mix.
like different heads and different?
Well, we haven't started doing that yet.
No.
Once we have everything in place, you know, we have a lot of the turf areas are nozzles, they're not actually rotors. Even the rotors, I was talking to somebody today about just trying to make some adjustments, you know, to keep it off the concrete, things like that, but to make the adjustments, you need three separate tools, because you've got three different brands of product.
No.
So,
Would it be worth it to have anybody on the staff certified?
we've talked about that. You know, it's something that I've looked into. You know, it's essentially it's $550 to go for. You're going to have to go for a week, and you wait a month or until TCEQ tells you. Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I'm not a licensed irrigator, but I've been doing irrigation work for almost 20 years. So I've kind of been looking internally at our staff, if there's somebody perhaps internally within our group that an opportunity to do something.
That'd save you a ton of money right there.
It would.
Just a couple of visits.
Yes, and that was one of the things that I brought up was, you know, two calls for two issues. And you're just running about what, $450, Phyllis?
Yeah, $400 or $500.
So what's the requirement for having one? I mean, why do you have to use a licensed irrigator? Is that when you're installing new stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, as best I can tell, I've worked with licensed irrigators, and as long as you're doing maintenance on an existing system and you're not hooking into fresh water, that's acceptable.
Okay.
You know, if you're adding zones or you're doing major overhaul stuff, then it all has to do with the backflow and contaminating everyone else's water.
So like when we're fixing up soccer fields over there by the library and everything and regrading all that, you'll have to bring in a licensed irrigator because it's going to be changing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it would pay for it and do that one project.
Sounds like you need to find somebody quick.
But at the same time, you know, what's your current capacity? So, you know, if you don't have the capacity for it.
Right. Yeah, I looked at the dates on the calendar and I thought to myself, you know, can I get over there, because the training classes I think are in Bedford, they're not in, you know, there's a few around here, but the window, do I have it in my schedule, the window of opportunity to go get it? Still looking at the dates though.
Well, I would prefer you to be the one. Just my opinion. I mean, at least then you could kind of be in charge of it and control, but anybody would be good
Right.
in the long run.
Yeah, and it, you know, the test is, aside from the 40 hours of classroom time, you know, a lot of times when you take those crash course study type things, you're used to taking the test immediately after. The fact that you have to wait a month and then you have you know, it's a pretty intense project. It's a three level property, and different elevations. You got to have different hydraulic pressure in the water. You got to size the pipe to get it to all the places. So, you know, you got to pay attention. I've seen the test, and that taking that month off, that gap between studying and taking the test, you definitely got to prepare for it. Any other questions about the irrigation upgrades?
No.
Talking about technology, one of the things that actually before I started working here, I had someone contact me. I didn't have the ability to work with these folks, but after I got here, I contacted them. The name of the app is called Capture, and it's a landscape management app. They are the company that is developing the app is largely based in Las Vegas and upscale properties in California and things like that, apartment complexes, things. But they really were interested in trying to tap into the municipal side of things, but they didn't have a whole lot of anything to work with as far as data and, you know, how would you market this type of thing. So once I got here, it's free. Right now we're able to, all of our properties, the assets, I haven't plugged in every trash can and things like that, but basically if our staff, they can create work orders, they can create maintenance requests, and on the back end of this thing, it logs all of that. So if they spend more than 5 minutes in an area, then the app supposes that they're working. And the way that if I was to see something, or anyone else, once they have permissions to be on that app, they could create a work order or a maintenance request, and the only way that you can close that out is to be on that property and take a picture. So you couldn't be across town closing work orders out. And it's something that we've talked about carrying out to, you know, there may be some other functions for some other departments that it might be beneficial, other applications other than just landscape. It's very much, you know, it's always changing. The gentleman that I've been working with, he's in Dallas, but he also spends a lot of time out in their other areas. You know, when we're not paying for it, we kind of get, we're able to discuss it when he's in town. Sometimes we'll meet, you know, 2 times a month, and then we may not meet for a month. But at the end of the day, it's still tracking things, and it should be pretty useful at the end of the year.
Definitely. I mean, it could be useful in terms of determining what properties actually cost. Right?
Right.
There's a lot of sunk cost goes into it, right? We just stuff that was paid for inherently. But we don't always know exactly where it goes, right? Like, you know, landscaping, waterworks, stuff like that, to kind of say, oh, it's this much money. But we can say, okay, this property had so many work orders regarding preparing landscaping, like irrigation.
I think some of the initial numbers that I've seen is, it's, staff spends mowing medians, driveways, things like that, parks. Any restrooms empty and trash they wind up being huge numbers added all up. So this is a good way to, should there ever come a situation where, if anything was ever to be contracted out, at least you have the data to support it, whatever that cost is. Like I said, it's, I'm excited. I was excited about it when I met the guy before I ever got here, and then when I got here, I was thinking, I need to call him because we can all benefit from it. He's benefiting from the knowledge, and we're. Any other questions about that? The canopy over at Town Center Park that was back the storm that came through at Christmas last week. We had multiple estimates, and they were really expensive. And so I contacted a gentleman I'd done business with before. He gave me a phone number for Harlan, and the price came down significantly. It was $13,000 down to $4,250. Checked his references, I checked his work, does a lot of work for University of Texas at Tyler with their shade structures, things like that. Deposit was, the 50% deposit was sent.
Is it the same material or what's the difference?
I think a lot of I did reach out to the vendor that supplied the product originally, and I never heard back from anyone.
Did it have a warranty on it, and that's why I didn't call it?
So,
Do they come with some sort of 36 months, 72 months?
I want to say, I don't think I brought it with me,
The
but
same thing happened over at the elementary school a
Mhm.
year.
Last year.
Yeah,
I want to say he.
and it was from when they installed the two over there. One of them was tight and one of them was loose, and the loose one's shredded and the tight one's fine. So
Well, and, if the opportunity ever presents itself again, and, having multiple, the one-piece hip structures are really nice, and they're the super span. That's where it comes in like that. It's gonna do it again at some point. We ever got to a point where we had to do something different, breaking that into smaller sections, so if one's ripped, you're ripping not all of it. It is nice to not have support beams in the middle of your playground. I know everyone's trying to audit that system over there at Town Center, and every time I try to, there's always, the kids are always out there, and folks are there even early in the morning. So I'm sitting there deciding, well, I don't think I'm gonna turn the water on. I think we get some calls, so. But, any other questions about the shade canopy?
No.
Let's see. We did have some vandalism over at the park. Actually, it was April Fools,
which part?
Town Center Park.
Okay.
I know, obviously, we have cameras in the vantage points that I think adding a few more cameras at different angles would be helpful. And I know that they're expensive. A case where, I had everything that I needed except for the most important thing, which
License plate.
license plate. And I've got audio, not audio, I've got clips of what time they got there.
So what do you think of putting one at the entrance, since it's one egress in and out?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just the angles, placement.
Yeah.
There's also some that are grainy. The images are grainy. So,
The,
and I guess I'm not trying to not talk, but at the same time, I know, I don't want to give all the trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
what about, putting like some kind of, pillars on both sides of the entrance, chaining it off? Do you think that would be worth doing, or, I know it would have to be, I don't know, we might have to actually ask the police department to do it, because it doesn't close till late. I mean, it's not
Talking
like,
about like a bollard type thing.
well, no, I'm just, any kind of structure, concrete pillars on steel pillars or something on both sides of the entrance and chain it off, big heavy chain.
What are the hours of the park?
It closed at 11, I'm
Closes at 11.
supposed to close at 11.
And, the thing is the lights are, I went back and all the lights are on like they're supposed to be.
Yeah. I was just curious what time it opens, because when I meet up with people that run or whatever, we're over there before 6, so nobody's ever said anything for me to be there.
Yeah, it wasn't what I was, I mean, I knew that,
What happened?
basically a person in a minivan backed in, walked up, covered their face up, racial type situation. I don't really know what the picture.
Did that power wash at all, or did that not
Yeah,
work?
we had to repaint because it was
Okay.
black and silver. They were there about 8 minutes. And,
Was it after 11 though? Was it?
Yeah, it was 12:37. It's 12:37, and at 12:45 they were leaving. So definitely based on what, I mean, just I guess if you have to quality of work, that I would imagine that they do this. It wasn't amateur hour.
Very artistic.
Yes, yeah.
They've
So-
done it before.
I think so. But, yeah, we got some graffiti remover and we closed the restroom down. We had it back up in order, by midday.
Yeah. I was over there the other night and I noticed we just resurfaced that tennis court and it's got a big spot that looks like it peeled up. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that. I have seen the places where,
Yeah, this is a pretty good 2 or 3 feet wide piece. It looks like it's like the material peeled up.
That should be under warranty, because I know it came with one. I thought it did.
I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, this
I didn't
was
think
just the
people were
other night.
supposed to be working out on the tennis court over under on the concrete, plain concrete is where,
Well, it's a
but, it's
a good
again,
place
kinda hard to go.
yeah. It's it's a good place to go if you got 20 people or whatever. I don't know.
Right. But that's not what it's made for, the tennis
No.
court.
But really, I don't know. There's no other place out there unless you're on the grass.
The group that goes in the morning goes underneath the pavilion over by the picnic tables, and they never get in the tennis courts, but I don't know what that warrior group or whatever it's called, they're usually over in the grass.
They like having lines to run back,
Yeah.
so the tennis courts are used pretty regular. I don't know about here, in other places I think. But
Well, and then, it was pretty easy to determine what, the workout was written on the tennis court, little stick figure. But I will, I made myself a note, I'll look at that tomorrow.
You may be able to hire them, for a school project or something.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep an eye on that, just to see what the wear looks like, knowing that it's brand new. I've seen a few chips here and there, but I'll definitely look for that.
Have to look that up.
I thought it came up pretty decent more.
Do any of the cameras, do any of the current cameras have a good vantage point towards the entryway? Regardless of the angle?
Is, that I have that we could do, you know, for instance, a different angle, but this last one in a different place would have got, want to make it so obvious and you can't have it at a level that somebody can go vandalize it beforehand, so.
I'm just saying, there's cameras out there. You have to have a camera just for this. It's not about the camera, it's about the settings on the camera. Because there's cameras at cars driving 35 miles an hour, you can get the plates. But it has to be a camera for this only.
Right.
And it's nice to have a wide view of everything, but you can't, once you zoom in, you can't see the numbers. So if there was such a camera pointing towards the street where cars come and go, you could get it, and there's software that keeps the logs of every license plate when they came in, when they went out. So it can be automated. But the expensive part is obviously running the cabling to put it in the right place. If we have, I don't know where the cameras are right now or all the cabling. If any of them are at least pointing in the right direction, I think we can find the right kind of camera.
I will say this, that I was able to, on 4 of the cameras, I was able to get really good image. We're kind of working through some right times, how long it's logged. Do anything, it's just it does get expensive. I've asked for some quotes on some of the types of cameras. So I don't have the numbers back yet, like what we.
I know in our neighborhood we have 2 cameras. We have one facing, ours is a straight shot coming in our neighborhood. So whenever you get to the first stop sign, it picks up your whole car and your plate. And then we have the other one going in the other direction. So whenever you leave, and they're set to where they can, say if you have a truck, you pull in, your truck's empty. But when you leave, your truck's full of something in the back, we can fill that up.
Yeah, and like I said, it was, this the person that did this, it was so obvious because an advertising, hey, I've got spray paint. I mean, it's in there, pop the hatch, just pop the hatch, throw a couple of cans in the back of it. So it definitely, I was expecting kids,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. So.
Well, next time you find that, just call us, and so we can check it out first before you clean it up.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has pictures.
I've got pictures. Yeah. And I did file a police report, but, and I have all of it, so. Need the report to take into account staff time, labor costs, material costs, things like that.
Fortunately, it hadn't been a major issue, so
Right.
hopefully it
Yeah,
stays that way.
one of the longest, probably the longest tenured guy that was in maintenance told me, he says, it's the first time it's happened. But, more and more folks, the key is always to make it, if they vandalize something, get it fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, you can say, yeah, we gave them a blank canvas to start over, but at the same time, if you don't address it right away, let's see. Wanted to give y'all just a little update on chemical applications. And this kind of goes back to some of the things that I talked initially I had some ideas on as far as a pre-emergent, post-emergent fire ant, all of basically a full package to playing fields as well as just in general everywhere. But initially I thought that it might be beneficial to invest in a big, I do have a pesticide license, but after going back and after quoting everything out with multiple vendors, the price, it's negligible, the price between what we could purchase the product and pay someone else to apply it, or purchase the equipment, $1,000 for a spray rig. So anyways, the pricing that I'm looking at right now is somewhere, total for the town was, somewhere, have it tonight, getting some updates. But that is, that's 2 pre-emergent applications. It's, fire ant. It's a granular product that usually goes out once a year. It's called Top Choice. Dallas grass control for just the athletic field. Best product that was out there, the EPA took off the viable, affordable alternative. So instead of being able, they have a patent on it, so it's full cost. So fertilizer applications and then a fall fertilizer application. All of these things go towards making properties look nice, trying some of the weeds that are out there. There's some areas that I would choose not to spray because I'm concerned if we spray it, there may not be any. So I'm having to be selective on where we spray, you know. And I'm not talking about.
Blue bonnets are.
Well, I'm talking about on the playing field.
Yeah.
So,
Just because it's green doesn't mean it's grass.
and we made some improvements over at Jobson Park. We went in and placed all the bases, all the anchors, the pitching rubbers. We went in and primarily use over there, so now 3 different age groups can practice over there. So I thought that went well. You know, everything was backstops. So
Yeah, it's substantially better than it used to be, and the maintenance you guys are doing is great.
yeah, we're trying to get out there and drag it. We're trying to drag that 2 times a week.
One thing I'd recommend, you guys put in the little plastic
The whiskers.
plugs, the whiskers, and they're all, somebody got rid of all of them, you know. So the last time I was out there, I had to walk it off and dig until I found them, but
So there's,
would be to add the ropes so that stuck up from, because you've got those really nice plastic plugs that nobody puts back in, so Sarissa's gonna be getting on all the teams to make sure they're treating the field right. But if you do the ropes that stick up, just so they can identify where and then dig the hole, it'll work better than those whisker things, since, I don't know if the kid went through and ripped them all out or what, but there was the red set was left in with the bases, and the rest are gone, so.
There is a new set of the ones that there should be 3 for each distance.
Yeah,
Those are missing too now?
no, those bright orange ones, those are still there,
Okay.
but they're all in with the bases instead of in the
Gotcha.
ground. So,
Alright.
unless you have a tape measure or metal detector, it takes you a little while to
Right.
figure out where. But it is substantially better, and it's nice having those anchors in place.
Do we still do the striping or have the striping machine? Didn't we buy that a few years ago?
We did, but that may be at Vineyard.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
That was
I
that may
bought
be
one.
at Vineyard, and that's
Soccer
storage.
field.
I
Yeah,
bought I basically bought the little cheap one, the can of paint,
Can of.
field marking paint, just to do the foul lines so we could square the bases and everything. But
yeah. Do you have a key to that building?
probably somewhere.
Somewhere.
I've got 3
Might have all sorts of
keychains.
nice toys in there.
Yeah. You may
I'll
check
make a note to look for that.
check in there. Yeah, we would. I don't know if it was spray paint or,
It was something else besides spray paint, I think.
yeah, I think so. I think it's more like
It
chalk,
has like
chalks.
the chalk stuff, and we
Yeah.
bought the chalk supplies to go with it or something.
Right.
But, I mean, they're probably used up by now.
Yeah,
A lot of
If,
times-
if the machine's even still there.
It's probably like a pigment paint, something that washes off after
after a while.
irrigation and stuff like that. A few comments about the equipment. Gone through and done an assessment on all the equipment as far as, and working on rotating some of the equipment that we have so that we're specifically the zero-turn mowers. There's also a few pieces of equipment that I think would be beneficial in terms of really what it amounts to is if you want your playing surfaces to be better, then you have to start aerifying, you have to start verticutting. Are y'all aware of verticutting, what that is, what the
Mowing at
concept
different
is?
angles and all that stuff.
Yeah, so basically the
So you don't
easiest way to
get
explain
trapped.
it is Bermuda grows horizontally, grows laterally. So when it verticut, you're removing all the thatch, the dead grass, things like that, that block sunlight, block water, nutrients. So when you come through and you clean that out, and then when you slice the runners vertically, it basically, the plant senses that it's been injured and it goes into overdrive and try to repair itself, which means your turf gets thicker. It's the easiest way to explain it. Aerification, you know, if we're aerifying the fields and we're pulling top dressing that's obviously gonna help with your drainage issues, some leveling in there with it. But, you know, it really is a practice that should be done at least twice a year. Verticutting the same at least twice a year. I've priced all of these things out. You're talking about, these are contract price, $8,000 per occurrence that you verticut, top dress, aerify. But I do have a attachment for a tractor that is about $9,000. Still working with Phyllis on how we figure all this stuff out. There may be some things we can do, other things we can't. Verticut attachment is the same thing. It goes on a tractor. It's about 12. So,
Do you have one of those machines that do the plugs, aerate?
we don't.
Don't?
No, we don't have either one of these pieces of equipment.
How much are those, do you know?
Which one?
Like the aerator, where it does the plugs?
Well, if it's an attachment that's going on a tractor, it's about 9,000, a little over 9,000.
Are they about 5 feet wide or?
5 to 6 feet. So,
And another good reason to know where your sprinkler heads are.
yes. Yes, so you can get everything flagged. And, you know, that's the thing, is a lot of times the contractors, they would expect you to go.
Those would basically pay for themselves in 1 year, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds like a
and that's the thing, is if you, at first glance, if you say, well, we're just gonna aerify and verticut top, it's gonna be almost a push.
no-brainer.
You know, yes, you have equipment that's sitting idle, but not a lot. The benefit though is, you know, if you get into the heat of the sun, aerifying attachments, you don't always have to pull a plug. You can put the knives on there and you can go out and slice. So it's, you know, but all of those things are designed, you know, I say all of these things because it's really all a matter of preference. And these are the same practices that I've been doing for almost 20 years. It's,
Oh, and we're wanting to add facilities over time, so definitely be cheaper than.
Yeah, if you get quotes, give them to Tracy. Jump on it. do something. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I would think that if we're taking care of the yard, it's not a yard, if we were taking care of, you know, the land better, then that would take less stress off of the mowers themselves, and so that's just an additional
Well,
as
this-
well, right?
And some of the savings that you find, and you know, when you think about, on one hand, yes, that's a lot of money. But the side of that the hidden cost of not doing it is all right now when the clover's growing crazy. That, the equipment wear and tear on the vehicle, on the equipment, the gas. You know, there's a cost for having to go out and do those things. And I'm not saying that chemicals are gonna eliminate that, but if you get on a good program and cut down those weeds, then allows us to work on something else. Because I'm always looking for time in our schedule and our workload that we can spend more time on the fields. Things, you know, changing the height to cut to 1 inch on the soccer fields, and raising the height to cut on the surrounds up to 2 inches. Just, yeah, those extra mows, and not just the, you know, not just the athletic fields, but the park up. Somewhat limited at Town Center Park because it's not fully irrigated, so we can only pre-emerge the areas that are irrigated. We could do it all, but then trying to time it, if we miss, then we just wasted a lot of money. So.
Like a good plan.
And we have storage for the attachments if we were to get them.
Yeah, we don't right now. I mean, there's space in the. That was one there. The guys have talked to me about needing space, I haven't got estimates on that. All the standards for buildings and things like that. Ideally,
Are you over at Norman Glaze? Is that where?
my office here, but I'm over there.
Because isn't that property like on the hit list to disappear?
Public Works
Yeah.
building? I wouldn't say it's on a hit list, but there was talk when Lineage was talking about expanding that we may have to look at relocating the facilities, but that hasn't gone as far as Lineage wanting to further expand.
They're kind of limited over there. You don't have a whole lot of space. I mean, you'd have to put another building up or something.
I honestly think and I haven't talked to Johnny or any of the folks out there. It would be something to talk about, see what if they've got any. One of the things I did in my old place was we built a 3-sided lean-to, largest pieces of equipment and back then, all of that equipment was on lease. So tractor seats that were faded, that were light yellow instead of bright yellow, you had to replace the whole, or it was returned on the lease, or you could pay them to do it. So we put our larger pieces of equipment in a lean-to. Like I said, I don't know, I'm not familiar with all of the makes and things like that. But that would be a good option if it's allowable.
What is how are we doing with the lawnmowers overall? Are we on a good plan?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this year the simple, but put a number on each of the mowers. 2 units that need to be pulled out and have some more wear put on them. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier, I got side talking about equipment. Tractor that we have, it's an 80 horsepower tractor, and it's up for replacement this year. It's set up for a highway, what I would call a highway mowing operation. It's really heavy like this when it's wet. The bulk of the mowing has to be done with the zero turn mowers. 50-horse tractor with a 14-foot attachment that's more of a grooming mower. And the thought would be the less weight, being able to get, if we do get behind after a rain event, we can get things knocked out faster. Also, in my opinion, will extend the life of the zero turn. Should we move forward with that tractor, any of these attachments, if we were to go that route, all of those attachments would be. And any other questions about the equipment stuff?
No, we just want to make sure that we're up to speed with those mowers and that we don't get behind.
No, I think, like I said, rotating the equipment phased out, adding that attachment that's definitely is gonna, when you're talking about cutting a 14-foot swath versus a 60-inch, you're gonna be, in my mind, a lot more efficiently. The retractor is a good idea as well, because that large tractor trying to get from the service center out to,
Right.
so.
What was our plan on the zero steers? Was it one a year or one every other? I mean,
One every other year.
Yeah, we did one last year, or do we do two? Because we hadn't done any in a couple of years.
It
Well,
was one
yep.
a year for 3 years,
yeah.
and then every other year.
Every other year.
All right, so where are we in that?
But kind of what Burton is saying, we don't need, right now, looking at everything, we're fine on where the mowers are and what he needs to do. So looking at his plan and following that, he'll come back when we need to buy a new mower or something like that.
Right. I guess so the reason I'm asking is you're saying, is the 80 horse going away, or is it just age-wise, you're gonna buy another one and it'll augment it, or?
Well, it's the number of hours that are on the unit. It's a relative issues that we're having now with it though is,
Hydraulics and stuff are just old, even though it hadn't been used much?
yeah, it's got 1,900 hours on it and it's up for replacement.
Okay.
So the idea would be is if we do were to move forward with that smaller tractor and that.
Trade it in on it.
Or,
Yeah.
or, basically drive it till it will, whatever the case is,
Right.
I mean, it still has a price, it still has function, but.
But based on it, and then shifting back to us, our budget was to fund these other mowers over certain times. So if we're not doing that, then the funds can be used for the other tractor and still be on track if you're saying the usage on the other one's being rotated and we don't need that many of them.
Yeah, I'll say this, the tractor initially, what is it again, I'm sorry, it's
Or that other equipment that you already talked about.
What?
10% on the cost of repairs.
Right, we kind of have a kind of a rule of thumb that when the cost of repairs exceed value, then it's time to start looking at replacing it, even if maybe it wasn't really necessarily up for replacement at that time. So we try to watch how much money we're spending on repairing some of these items. I think maybe the tractor you're referring to was the one that was in the shop.
Yes, it went into the shop and had about 4,000, had it back, they had to split the machine, hydraulic fluid, we thought maybe it was just some residual. Out, used it one time, came back and steadily leaked back in the shop to make it right, so. There were some other repairs that they recommended, but it would have pushed us over that,
Right.
over that 10%.
I guess my question isn't really about the other tractor, the 80 horse tractor. It's more along the lines, if we're not gonna buy these zero steers like we budgeted, we can better use that funds for the new tractor or for this aerator machine and the Verticut machine. If we
Well-
budgeted spending it,
And we don't have anything budgeted within our budget per se for it. So what we have.
yeah, we did.
No, it's all part
It's
of our
all-
general transfer.
Yeah, we have a $25,000 vehicle replacement fund that's part of the transfer in that we do. So that money can be utilized
Right,
towards
so
the,
it still is quote budgeted, it's just not called zero scoop. It's $25,000 vehicle replacement.
So, and you recommend that we not purchase the another 80 horsepower because you just don't use it, or it's not as useful?
I don't think it's as useful.
Okay.
You know, I think we can be more efficient and have, you know, the one that I spec'd out has a bucket attachment. Things for even just adding infield material over at the park. You know, trees go down, being able to use a clamp type bucket as opposed to, you know, men out there wrestling trees
Right.
and things like that, so.
Do you know approximately cost on the 50 horse?
I think the last quote that I got was about 31.
What's the brand?
This one that was 31 was a Kubota.
I say if you find that some equipment needs to be rotated differently and the funds are not, you know, maybe you need to replace a couple of pieces of the funds that are kind of included in that transfer, not enough to cover what you need, to let us know and
Right.
we'll do what we need to do. So, I mean, doing the transfer that way and the amount and guessing at the frequency was just a guess. And I think our whole purpose was to get you in here and let you get your lay of the land and then let us know what actually was needed. So I think we trust your judgment on.
Yeah,
We want to support you, and we want, you know, those fields to at least look pretty decent. So whatever we can help you accomplish that goal.
Yeah, the next thing I was going to talk about was the drainage. There's obvious drainage issues over at
Vineyard.
and Jobson as well. But you'd like aerification, things like that are going to help. They're not going to fix everything, but they are out some of the organic material, and you're putting in sand, which is going to drain easier, which is going to allow things to work. You know, create some of it. I did get some estimates for Vineyard, and unfortunately, the gentleman that I spoke with was more of a arm of their company. Did seem to think that I think he jobs, and I'm trying to remember what exactly the numbers were on that. Do you have any, you remember all? I don't want to give y'all a number that's not right. I'd have to go back. Definitely I think the issues are obviously more costly than the ones over at Jobson. Overall, though, there's some other drainage issues over at Vineyard, at least the property. So, you know, even if you do get Vineyard on that field, you're going to make unless you carry the water somewhere else, you're just making it worse on the 80.
We can't tap into those drains that are,
I'm not sure. You know, at first I thought maybe, but I still don't know. It's sewer, so probably not. But I don't know.
I was gonna say, well, why do you think that it's not a possibility? I mean, if it's just it's getting water now, so what difference does it make if we tap into them?
Talking about the manholes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. I thought I had all that figured out when I first got here, but I'm not so sure anymore. Like
I mean, why are you hesitant? Because I'm wondering why they were there in the first place. Because isn't there 3 or 4 of them? I mean, that's huge for,
Yeah, I think there's 4, or for sure there's 3.
you know.
I'm just not, for me, I'm not, I don't know, that's not my expertise as far
Okay.
as storm sewer, and
Yeah.
storm water, you know. I just don't know.
It just seems like we could, you know, somehow put some graded drains in different locations and be able to tap into those holes. I mean,
Yeah, and I think there, you know, depending on what the long-range plan for, there's a plan over there to get that water out. But I do know if we do get the field draining properly, it's gonna make it worse. As far as the standing water, mosquitoes and the residents that live there.
so you're saying if we get the field right, it's gonna get worse?
Push a little water to the edges.
If you don't address the edges.
Well, yeah, no,
And then
I'm,
eventually what happens is they all come together.
yeah,
Like the walking path would be covered up. You know, because if you
Yeah.
build up and it's eventually gonna.
well, I'm not even talking about, I'm eliminating the water around the
Gotcha.
edge.
Gotcha.
It looks like somebody cut a moat at some point, so, I mean, there's gotta be a solution.
Yeah, it's just, there's like, those drains are like, I mean, for that small of an area, I mean, it just, why is there that many manholes?
Well, won't it matter what the survey comes back? Won't we get some answers from that on how to deal with the drainage?
I don't know if we'll get an answer. We'll know what the
Or we'll
plot is
have the
supposed to,
we'll have the information to have
you know.
somebody look at it and maybe someone with that
You'll have
knowledge.
You'll have some elevations that can tell you where
Where
your
the problem
highs and
areas are.
lows are. And if I knew what the answer to your question in terms of can we do COOP or not, I mean, I definitely think there's ways. If you got, where you could send the water in different directions, probably based on those elevations. I don't know what.
Is that something Johnny Meeks would be involved in?
Not to derail this conversation, but we're kind of getting into the weeds from what his update is supposed to be. So on this part, we're gonna
All right.
have some further discussions, to be able to figure out the drainage issues over there.
Right. Any other questions? About any of this?
Thanks, Burton.
Sure thing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for all your research and hard
Sure.
work. This was very helpful.
Be safe going home.
What was that?
Be safe going home.
I'm gonna stay.
Oh, you don't need to
We
stay.
have an audience.
You gotta ride.
Need a break.
Does he still live like 2 hours away?
All right, we will move on to discussion and action items. Number 2, discuss, consider, and act upon the regular meeting minutes for March 19th, 2019.
And you should all have that in your inbox.
I
If
do.
you do not,
reviewed it.
I have a printout.
I'll take a printout.
Too late.
Here.
Yeah, I like paper.
Old fashioned.
That's right.
Any questions? Good. Can I get a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes for March 19th, 2019?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Second.
seconded by member Eldridge. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 3, discuss, consider, and act upon the March 2019 financial reporting and related financial items.
So For March 2019, we had our sales tax revenue of $62,001.23. That covers conference fees and routine payroll and other membership dues. No project expenditures. So our ending fund balance for the end of March is before assignments is $2,980,000. Don't have any other comments or questions for Phyllis.
Questions? I get a motion to accept the March 2019 financial reporting and related financial items.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by member Eldridge,
Second.
seconded by member Torres. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Moving on to item number 4. Discuss and consider and act upon the 2018-2019 mid-year budget.
Did you want to talk about it?
The 2018 and 19 mid-year budget adjustments that 4B originally discussed included the adjustments for the sales tax receipts, an adjustment for interest earned, as well as an adjustment for a new account for miscellaneous expense items, and an adjustment of that adjustment was $2,000, and an adjustment of $500 for Main Street America for subscriptions and dues. When we presented the 4B's mid-year adjustments to the budget committee and talking with the town manager and then looking at our adjustments, it was suggested that we present an adjustment only for the $350,000 in incentives, with the thought process being that the other amounts were minor amounts and really could be absorbed by other items that we had budgeted for in 18-19. So we presented the mid-year budget adjustment to the town council at Monday, April the 8th meeting, and it will go before the town council again on Monday the 22nd for a second reading. I wasn't at the meeting, but I understand from Tracy that questions with respect to 4B's changes, requested amendments. So with those changes, we will be looking at revenues, total revenues of $872,300 and total expenses of $1,641,917, and going into our fund balance for $768,617. And that is if 100% of every item that we have budgeted is actually expensed by the 9/30/2019.
So if you'll recall, we approved this last board meeting because of the changes. That's why it's being brought back to you.
Do it again.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the mid-year budget for with the changes as presented.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Second.
seconded by member Eldridge to accept the 2018-2019 mid-year budget with the changes that were presented. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 5, discuss, consider, and act upon the 2019-2020 budget.
And this is just brought before y'all. We've done mid-year, but we're also, on top of that, we are looking at next year's budget. So this is just trying to get y'all to start thinking about things that you'd like to see next year. Obviously, we still hope that we can get some things done through this year's budget, but just starting to think about if there's any ideas, other projects y'all want to look at, other items that you'd like to see adjusted. I'm working with Burton on some ideas on, what we need or what we don't need within each of the parks, and allocating the appropriate funds in each of those categories. So I'll continue to work with him on some of that. That may also change depending on if equipment is purchased to be able to go through some of the parks. Other than that, I would assume some of the same projects that we have, glacier trails will still be there, but if there's anything else that, thoughts? If not, nothing, no action or
No
anything
action to be
needed
taken.
this evening, can work with Sarah and Michael, further to get the next year's budget set and presented back.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, Burton's thoughts, once y'all talk through some of those things on whether or not we need to continue having these separate little buckets for each park, or if we need to tweak that somehow, if we need to have a larger bucket, especially if we're gonna be buying some equipment that will cover some of those services, or doing contract to cover some of those. Important to hear what comes out of our next joint meeting with County Mexico on spending money.
Any questions? All right, move on to item number 6. Discuss, consider, and act upon discussion items for the joint meeting with Town Council on April 29, 2019.
One last opportunity to.
Thanks,
see-
Phyllis.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What y'all would like to discuss at the joint meeting. I currently have down Rails to Trails, the Glacier property, downtown sports complex, and Sunnyvale Central. More opportunity to see if there was anything you'd like to add to
Sorry, you said Rails to Trails, Glacier, Sunnyvale Center,
sports
downtown,
complex.
and sports. I just had a question. I've seen on the Nextdoor app a lot of discussion about the horses,
Mhm.
and someone posted that there is a open door meeting that's going to be hosted here to discuss the horses on April
April
25th.
25th.
Is that being published
About what?
anywhere?
Yes,
Is your phone
and
recording?
it was gonna actually be an update,
Oh,
but,
you were talking about that later, okay.
and it's fine, yes, April 25th from 4 to 7 PM is an open public participation meeting, and it is essentially going to have maps laid out of the property, so any citizen, it's a come and go event, any citizen can come in, write what they'd like to see on the property, write down their comments, what they would like to see. So it's just an opportunity to be able to give public input.
Okay, so it's more of garnering input from the citizens rather than council giving an update on some type of
Yeah, it's
decision,
not council
right?
giving an update, it's not our consultants giving an update, it
Okay.
is simply a citizen input opportunity.
Okay, I just thought the timing was odd, that was one of our topics of discussion at the joint meeting, but the joint meeting.
Well, and the
there, so-
reason the joint meeting is after, we wanted to have this prior to the joint meeting was so that we could take what the citizens said to that meeting to be
Right,
able to.
which
share.
that makes sense, I wasn't thinking of it as a citizen input. I
It's
was
not
thinking of it-
posted that way on social media, so
Mhm.
it's read a little differently by, a lady that posted it. It
So-
wasn't exactly what was happening, and so I think the content and the context got,
So where is it posted officially? On the city website?
I don't know if it's been officially posted on the city website or not. I have not gone to the city website,
The town website.
the town website.
Town website, yes.
Sorry, I was following Eric's.
Municipal website.
So I'll go and, it just officially got, the word started getting out on Friday. So, and that started, I wanted to let first the committee, have an opportunity to know about it, and then didn't want anything getting out until council knew about it on Friday in our Friday update. So now that council and everybody knows, it'll start getting posted.
Is there any other form? I mean, can people just email in? Because it's kind of short notice.
Yeah, I mean, any comments are welcome.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, people have already started spreading the word, had a meeting with, the people talk about it, and so they've let their tenants know about it. And then about it, there's council members letting people know about it.
So it's just about the Glacier track, it's not about,
That's it. That's nothing else. It's just that piece of property.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. In answer to your original question, I don't have any other topics that I'd like to add.
my question, under the guise of sports complex, is that, can we also go just talk sports facilities? I mean, sports complex to me is that giant vision of a for-profit type compound versus potentially having neighborhood pocket parks with sport facilities in them. And is it all encompassing?
I think we are interested in not the mega for-profit building, but more of, Valley Creek, is that what I'm thinking of? Something
Right.
more along that line. No, that's just baseball,
But I know what you're
obviously,
saying. I'm
but
just saying
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
not just one thing. It's just sports facilities
Right,
as a
maybe the
whole.
Forney one is a better example, where they have a lot of different uses, but it's
Right.
all kind of contained in one area. Maybe. Right, that's, we're all on the same page about that's kind of our vision, right? Or no?
I'm not saying that isn't. It's just another option would be potentially, if we can't get one big chunk of land to do all of it, would be something here, something there, but.
Go ahead.
At some point, we talked about the roundabouts. Is there gonna be anything special in the middle? And is that something we wanna be a part of?
Beautification.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that in a joint meeting, or you just want that for a topic of discussion at a future 4B meeting?
Both, but, I mean, the town is, and the county
Yeah,
is
they may have
funding
already
the,
contracted
Moving
for
forward pretty
something.
quick.
so I'm just curious do they have a vision for what's gonna be in the middle? And if they do, great, what is it? And if they don't, do we wanna be a
They were looking at the light poles and all that kind of stuff already and making decisions that,
But have they communicated any of that to us, or?
Burton, is that where the Christmas tree is? So there's an idea that, has it already been purchased? There was an idea that the town would purchase a big Christmas tree that during the holidays that would go in the center. There's also been talk about a possibility of a statue going there. I don't think anybody knows. I think it's just kind of thoughts and ideas that have been floated. And it's nothing that has gone into the project. It's just the roundabout itself, but nothing that would go in it is put in the project right
So
now.
we probably would get tapped for something like that.
Not barely, I don't.
It's the roundabout first.
There'd be a fine line of what we could pay for in the middle of a town roundabout. Just
Well,
have to, whatever is
worldwide
decided.
roundabouts are considered parks depending on how big they are. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and do we
Depending
have,
on what it is, we'll have to verify.
Well, we paid for stuff in the
Medians.
medians for the Sunnyvale signs. I wouldn't see that as any different.
I mean, it's partly,
Didn't we pay for the Sunnyvale signs? Or something having to do with the Sunnyvale signs and the medians, or no?
The one at the, by Highway 80 in
Mhm.
Collins?
Didn't we have something to do with that, or no?
No, I don't
Maybe
think,
we talked about it.
because somebody
Never
ran it
mind.
over and then it was rebuilt. I don't think
Right.
we paid for it.
well, and maybe it's too late to do, well, if we're gonna help with something, what is that something? And is it too late to do, like we said, electric for the poles, electric for the roundabout?
So
and
there
then-
is going to be electrical conduit that is run to be able to put electricity to poles. That is included in the project itself.
What about a water feature? And I'm just thinking out loud here.
Like,
So
a,
the-
like a dolphin spitting water out.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Four dollars.
mermaid, but.
I think a big
Dolphin
raider,
stand.
a
Yeah,
big
Raider
raider.
statue.
Anyway, so I don't know if that's the right time to talk
You could
about
be
that,
carrying
but
some buckets of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the situation? I don't know if you talked with Nikki about the butterfly garden thing. I heard the other day that the state of Texas was expecting I don't know, 30,000 monarch butterflies this year alone.
Well, that's not very many, actually.
Well, I don't know, but
Like
but
30
they're
30 million or.
but they were talking about how it's going to be the
30,000
biggest, and it might have been 3 million. I don't know, but they said the state of Texas was going to have like the biggest they've ever had come through.
So Nikki's had a committee that she put together, and they've been having meetings and talking about options to be able to,
Yeah.
we can bring that back up.
All right.
I think there'll be plenty to talk about. I doubt we're gonna make it through it all.
Don't get me wrong, I don't plan on putting the butterflies on the joint meeting, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna note that as a future agenda item.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I just heard that in passing, so I thought it was a big deal. I don't know if Nikki's heard it.
Okay?
All right. Any more questions or ideas? Are we good? Move on to item number.
What, last thing, what time is the meeting? I don't know that the joint one?
It starts at 6.
6? Okay. And it's 4A, 4B together at the same time, or are we staggering? Okay, 6.
On the
Thank you.
29th,
Yeah,
hour late.
It's on the agenda.
It's at 6, right?
Yeah, I have 7 as well.
I had
On the
TBD.
agenda last month and this month.
Just because you changed it didn't mean that we changed it.
Yeah.
Just means you don't read it.
Well, sometimes I
No,
don't
because
get
I did
the
not make the
agenda.
connection to go change it in my calendar.
I have it at 6.
Hey, let me
See,
ask you.
Eric gets an A+.
Okay, so Eric, it's your responsibility from now on to alert us of when our meetings are.
So you just have to be here early. We don't.
Yeah.
Do we know how long that's supposedly gonna take?
I've got it marked for 2 hours, but
So I've got it
It's an
set for
average.
probably 6 to 9 by the time we talk about our major projects. I would bet that we could probably go longer than that, well, just to see how all the discussions go. Dinner will be provided that evening.
we're opening dinner.
Okay, that's important to know.
You're-
I wasn't on the agenda. so Let me put it here.
All right, we will move on to this, item number 8. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, no, we skipped.
We skipped 7. Did I call that one 7?
No, it's
Item
not.
number 7, discuss, consider, and act upon the economic incentive guidelines.
We will table this item.
We will table this item. Move on to item number 8. Discuss, consider, and act upon an agreement with Pacheco Koch for professional land surveying services for Robert Lee Vineyard Park. Robert Lee?
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
not that one.
Wait till that gets out.
Although she did say a statue.
Well, have some more graffiti.
Well, there's one that's in storage right now.
You were emailed the agreement from Pacheco Koch on land surveying. So if you'll recall, when we approved for the Vineyard Park lights to get put up, we had to cancel or postpone them getting put in because there wasn't a survey that was done of the property. So we had to we're having to go through the process now to get a survey done because we need to be able to determine setbacks, but we can't currently do that because we don't have our boundary lines. So in the agreement, I had them do a couple different things. One, the boundary survey itself, and you'll see that it's for the entire 6 acres. It'll include the fire department, the library. So they've got it as 2 different tracks. There's track 1 that is Vineyard Park, and it takes the entire driveway. And then there's track 2, which is the library, the fire department, and the water tower. But in order for them to get an accurate reading of the park itself, they're gonna have to go to the boundaries outside, so it just makes sense to do the whole property. The difference of doing just Vineyard Park itself and the other is only about $500. And they said that they may have to go into track 2 anyway, so it just makes sense to survey the entire 6 acres. The other side of that, I had them break out the boundary survey and the topography survey. So the idea that they're already out there, they can go ahead and do the topographic measurements as well, so that we can work on getting the drainage fixed, and this will help with that.
Since they put the water tower in there, they would surely need a survey for the water
I think
tower.
so.
Whoops.
And the little bitty house under the water tower sold recently, so, you know,
Really.
So, next question. Is town interested in partnering a portion of that since it's going past the park?
It's only $500. I'm not gonna argue over $500, so I'm just
That's not the
asking-
question.
I'm just asked, I have not asked the town, I'm asking for the EDC to pay for the entire survey.
Pick your battles, Michael.
We can sell it to them later
I was told that
Yeah.
today.
when they need it.
it's kinda nuts that they don't have a survey
So I think
on
you
file
may have
from
said this already,
1910
but
or something.
you got other quotes besides this one, right?
Yes.
And this was the
Oh, yeah.
best one, just price-wise or experience or?
We went for,
Yeah, put
we
lights up, but they-
kind of did an RFQ, not a formal RFQ. There were 3 different firms that submitted their qualifications, and this company in particular has done some work right there, so they're familiar with the area. Lyle is also familiar with this company, and so we chose to go with this company, and then they provided their fees, which is what we.
So if we want to move forward with this, we just need to approve the 8450 plus or minus 10%, or just approve?
Approve the agreement as presented.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the proposal from Pacheco Coke for the survey items as presented for $8,450.
Motion made by member Bradford,
Second.
seconded by member Weiss. All those in favor? Passed unanimous. Move on to item number 9. Discuss and consider Economic Development Director update. A. Sunnyvale Day at the Capitol. B. Economic Development Week, May 6th through the 10th, 2019. C. Part-time Executive Assistant.
Just a couple of quick updates. On the Sunnyvale Day at the Capitol went really well. We had about 33 people in participation. Ms. Bradford was one that attended. Michael attended. It was a good trip. Everybody really enjoyed it. I think that we kind of had some pitfalls I don't think anybody realized about, but our resolution didn't end up getting read on the House floor. It got read on the Senate floor, but we were still recognized on the House. The parliamentary people put it on the agenda for the following day for our resolution to be read, but Ms. Bowers was gracious enough to go ahead and recognize Sunnyvale on the floor.
I was wondering why there was a difference.
Yes, that is why. A lot of things that went on behind the scenes that I'm hoping nobody knew about. And then we had lunch, and we had the Texas Ranger come and speak to the group, gave a great presentation. Then afterwards, we had a time to either go listen to the debates on the House floor or just some free time. And then we had a representative from the Economic Development Office of the Governor's Office came and gave a presentation, and then we got back on the bus and headed home. So I think all in all, it went really well. Economic Development Week. So we have the International Economic Development Council has set May 6th through the 10th as National Economic Development Week. There will actually be a proclamation that will be on council Monday night declaring May 6th through 10th as National Economic Development Week in Sunnyvale. Every day that week we will have tours that will be given from our industries. Monday and Tuesday the tours are at 2 o'clock. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the tours are at 10 and 2 o'clock. We actually had more people that wanted to do that, but we couldn't fit everybody in during the week. There will also be a industrial tour that will be that Tuesday the 7th at 10 a.m. That will be for council and boards only. They would like to attend, so if you would, let me know.
Wait, say that date and time again.
May 7th at 10 a.m. And then RSVP is required for all the tours, just for safety glasses and hard hats purposes. So if you'd like to have not received that schedule, let me know as well, and I'll send that back out. I know it went out, I don't know how many of you are signed up for the news flash that goes out from the town on Fridays, but it was sent out during that. It was also in the newsletter that you should have received in the mail as well. Part-time executive assistant, I am about tapped out, so I'm going to utilize our budget for an admin assistant, looking at hiring a part-time executive assistant. It has to be, in order not to have TMRS benefits, it has to stay below 19.3 hours per week. So it will be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 4 hour lunch, kind of what we're looking at, but be flexible, just need somebody in here, so whatever kind of they can work. The should have been posted possibly today. It's gonna go out on Texas site, the Texas Economic Development site, our website. So if you know anybody, let me know, I can.
All right, move on to item number 10, discuss future events.
So I lied, I don't have the time on here, but as you are aware now, April 29th from 6 to 9 p.m. I'm pretty sure it was on the last one, but maybe I lied to that too, so. That is going to be very important to attend, so if you can make every effort to be there, that would be greatly appreciated. Regular town council meetings coming up, April 22nd and May 6th. There's also going to be a groundbreaking ceremony for Collins Road on May 3rd at 10 a.m. I don't have all the details on that yet. I know they're trying to put that together, so as soon as I find out more details, I will let you know. Dallas Sheriff's Office is having a bike rodeo May 4th from 1 to 3 p.m. at the
High school,
the
isn't
high
it?
school. The Chamber Breakfast Networking is going to be at Long Creek Assisted Living May 7th at 8 a.m. Our next meeting is May 14th at 6:30 p.m. The ICSC conference, which is the retail conference, is May 19th through the 22nd. And just as a placeholder reminder, Economic Development 101 for the town council and boards is June 19th, and that is from 6 to 9 p.m. That is all. That's a lot.
All right, we'll move on to item number 11, discuss future agenda items.
So we will have the, all the incentives that have been approved. We'll have the public hearings and agreements next time. These are just placeholders for me. Don't really pay attention to them. Purchasing policy, iPads, hotel feasibility, the Parks and Trail Master Plan. Burton and I are looking into that. And so far, just a general quote for a new master plan is probably going to cost upwards of $200,000. So just to let you know. We've had a couple of quotes that have come between $150,000 to $200,000, but nobody wants to give an official quote because we have to do it based on RFQs. So, but those that will give a range, that is probably the range.
When it,
Wait, when
every
was the
5
last time
years
we
we're
got
supposed to do this?
Our 5 years is up next year. And the
Well, yeah,
last two have only been updates. They haven't
Oh,
been
okay.
full-blown master plans. So we need to do a full-blown master plan again because ours is pretty outdated and
15
even
years.
update is not accurate. So, we need to do. it's
Well,
time
all
to
we
do-
have to do is copy the last one because nothing's changed.
No, there's a
Yeah,
lot
some
that's
people
on
change.
there that is not accurate and updated. So we need
All right.
to fully update it.
So
So
how
what
much,
would the full redo give us that an update wouldn't?
Well,
We have to update it. We have to do a full-blown update every couple of years. We're past a full-blown
So
update. We haven't done a full one
It's not every 2 years, which is every couple, so.
every couple of
I thought it was required every 5
Yeah,
years
I
to
thought it
have
was
an
every 5.
update for grants and everything, but is it a,
Burden, save me here.
It's every comprehensive every 10,
okay,
update every 5.
okay.
Okay, so we're at the 10-year, we need the comprehensive.
Okay.
so how much did you say that cost? The-
Between 150 to
How much
200,000.
was it 10 years ago?
I could have
30,000.
Look it up.
Actually,
It's $2.
I have a meeting with them next week.
There's several people that wanna bid on this, so I'm not,
Yeah, this is more of an informational, the folks that did it previously.
There's a big difference between, I think we paid, what, $9,000 for the update?
Yeah, it wasn't
And a
no.
full-blown one for $200,000? Holy
well,
moly.
you got what you paid for.
Touche.
I think
We were happy.
We were, it was what was recommended to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's kinda nuts, you know. but it's,
We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
We're looking
been
into
work.
it further, but it's probably what it's gonna cost. I know a sticker shock. I will go back and
Yeah.
see if Phyllis can pull what we did 10 years ago and then what we did 5 years ago. And see what those prices are.
What we did 10 years ago is pretty similar to what we have 5 years ago. So if we're gonna pay that much, I'm thinking it should be somebody different to see the difference in their work. Let's put it that way.
I mean, what are they gonna do, survey the entire town? The drainage master plan only cost 400, and they were out here for months doing surveys and everything else, you know? And so
Topography.
right, yeah, kinda like, you could do it off of Google Earth.
I mean,
So some of the things that drive up the cost are public, I've asked what's driving the cost. Surveys, a lot of times when they're doing a comprehensive, they
Right.
So,
So truly finding out what the community wants and involving that as opposed to just,
but all of that, basically that research stuff is what drives the cost and the meetings.
Didn't know all that.
New side job.
all right.
Christmas decor, butterfly gardens. Any other future agenda items that y'all would like to discuss? Obviously, whatever comes from our joint meeting.
Is there any update on the contract with Samuel North?
So, I will, basically what it boils down to is Dallas is going out for an RFQ for all the Samuel properties, Samuel South, Samuel North, and Samuel New Hope. And we don't have any involvement in that. They're gonna go out for an RFQ. Once they select who they want to do a master plan of all the properties that are right here, the person that they hire will come out and talk to Sunnyvale and kind of get our ideas and what we're looking at for the properties. So in order to get into more, I may have some more information by then.
All right. We good? All right. We will adjourn into executive session at 8:22 p.m. Executive session agenda A, section 551.087, economic development, project PC, project PIG. And B, section 551072, deliberations about real property, the Lake Ray Hubbard SES Rail Spur.